Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show that takes specialized research, piles it all up, and gives you the fastest route to being truly well-informed. Today, we are focusing on a topic that might sound, deceptively simple professional tree care.
Right.
But our source material, which comes from specialists in Southern California serving places like Whittier, Downey, Fullerton, it really transforms this task. It turns it into a critical lesson in property safety and risk mitigation.
That's a crucial distinction. Our whole mission here is to pull out the actionable intelligence from these detailed reports.
Right.
And when you look at the source material, the core message is, well, it's this. Tree maintenance is not just about making your yard look nice.
It's not just landscaping.
No, it's a necessary insurance policy. I mean, neglecting tree health can lead to expenses and liabilities that far, far exceed the cost of just getting someone out there in time.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Let's start with the negative space, the consequences of ignoring all this. The sources really stress that while a healthy tree is great, it enhances your property's life and beauty.
Sure.
Neglect carries these risks that escalate. They go from a minor cosmetic issue to a genuinely terrifying liability problem, and fast.
Exactly. We are talking about risk management, pure and simple, and the most immediate and often the most expensive consequence that the reports detail is just outright property damage.
And the liability that comes with it.
There's subsequent legal liability, yeah.
Can you give us a specific, memorable scenario here? I mean, when we talk about property damage from overgrown trees, what does that actually look like in practice?
It's often a slow-motion disaster.
A slow-motion disaster like that.
Yeah. You have these untrimmed or unbalanced trees, and they cause structural damage by literally rubbing against or placing weight on your home's infrastructure.
So branches on the roof, that kind of thing.
We're talking about branches encroaching on roofs, on gutters, scraping away tiling, causing blockages, which then leads to significant water damage and leaks.
And that's before you even get to the power line.
No, absolutely. Unaddressed issues near public utilities can lead to power outages and really serious hazards for the whole neighborhood.
And I imagine the liability part of this is where the cost truly skyrockets.
It does. I mean, if you, the property owner, fail to address a known hazard, say a huge dead limb or a deeply cracked trunk, and that tree or that limb falls
Onto a neighbor's property.
Onto a neighbor's property, their fence, or God forbid, their car, you are very often deemed negligent.
So it's on you.
It's on you. The sources are crystal clear. Documented negligence turns a simple weather event into a very serious, very expensive lawsuit. A storm doesn't cause the damage. An unmaintained tree in a storm does.
Wow. So neglecting the trimming isn't just letting a big branch hang over your roof. It's actively accepting a significant legal and financial risk.
That's the perfect way to put it.
Okay, so beyond the physical structure, what about the life of the tree itself and the surrounding landscape?
Well, that brings us to what I'd call key risk area number 2, health degradation and the spread of disease.
Okay.
A neglected tree is a compromised tree. It's highly susceptible to pests and disease. And what's really critical for property owners to understand here is that these biological issues, they're rarely contained.
They spread.
They spread. If a severe beetle infestation or, say, a fungal disease takes hold, the sources warn that it can move very rapidly to the entire tree and then jump to other nearby healthy vegetation.
It's like an ecological collapse starting in your own backyard.
Precisely. And if the spread is severe enough, property owners might be left with no choice but, full urgent tree removal just to stop the infestation from destroying their entire landscape.
And this cycle is made worse by, I think you said, the third key risk, decay.
Yes, decay and growth stunting. Dead or decaying branches are just perfect breeding grounds for fungi and bacteria. If they aren't removed quickly through thinning or pruning, they act like a kind of biological anchor, just continuously compromising the tree's health.
And I guess conversely, if you just let a tree grow wild, it might look big, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy.
Absolutely not. Trees need strategic pruning to really thrive. Without proper maintenance, they often allocate energy pretty inefficiently.
Which leads to, what, stunted growth?
Limited or stunted growth, reduced vitality, and poor structural stability. It's counterintuitive, but sometimes you have to cut back to enable stronger, healthier growth.
Okay, and finally there's the aesthetic, the environmental consequence, which I guess goes beyond just looking a bit shabby.
It does. I mean, while curd appeal is certainly diminished by unsightly, neglected trees, and that does affect your property value,
Mm.
the deeper environmental point the sources raise is the disruption of the natural
How
balance.
so?
In a landscape like Southern California, certain neglected trees can become overly invasive. They can disrupt the health of native plants or other things you've intentionally planted. So, responsible intervention is often necessary just to restore a kind of ecological equilibrium in your own yard.
So the risks are substantial.
Hmm.
But how do we bridge that gap from, fear to action?
No.
The source material gives us this fantastic shortcut, a diagnostic checklist.
Yes.
What are the immediate visual red flags that these specialists want us to look for? The things that take a problem from "I'll get to it later" to "I need an arborist now."
They emphasize looking for very straightforward, non-negotiable indicators. First, the most obvious one, dead or diseased branches.
Okay, what does that look like?
You're looking for a sharp contrast, branches that are brown, dry, brittle, or just completely without leaves when the rest of the tree is thriving. If they snap easily, they are immediate hazards.
That's a clear visual confirmation. Okay.
Okay.
What about the core structure? I mean, the trunk and the roots, that's the foundation.
Right. Any significant cracks, splits, or physical damage to the trunk requires a professional assessment period. But the specific, highly technical indicator they highlight is one that a lot of people overlook
Which is,
because it seems benign. The presence of mushrooms growing specifically at the base of the tree.
wait, mushrooms. That sounds almost natural, like something you'd see growing out of healthy, damp mulch.
Right.
Why is that such a flashing red light for an arborist? Are we talking about the tiny ones that pop up after it rains, or something bigger?
That's an excellent distinction to make. We are not talking about standard fungi in the mulch a few feet away. No.
Okay.
We are talking about fungal bodies. Often they look like shelves or brackets emerging right where the trunk meets the ground. It's called the root collar.
And that means?
The sources specifically state that this visual cue indicates potential root rot or other serious internal fungal diseases that are actively degrading the wood structure below the soil line. That fungus is essentially feeding on the decaying wood, which severely compromises the tree's stability. It means the foundation is failing.
That is a brilliant diagnostic nugget. Okay, duly noted. If you see fungi having a party at the base of your tree trunk, call the professionals.
Absolutely.
What about signs of life that shouldn't be there?
That leads directly to the issue of insect infestation. You need to look for tangible evidence. Visible holes in the bark, areas with sawdust, or
Frass.
insect droppings, chewed leaves, or heavy webbing on the trees. And finally, you have to evaluate the growth patterns. If a tree is growing aggressively unbalanced, or if the crown is developing way too densely, it signals that intervention is needed to ensure stability and proper weight distribution before the next big windstorm hits.
So once you've confirmed a diagnosis, that brings us to the solution set. We often picture tree service as just, guys with chainsaws.
Right.
But the sources emphasize that a professional arborist's toolkit involves a high level of specialized biological and structural expertise that goes way beyond just simple trimming.
It absolutely does. I mean, the professional term tree trimming is really comprehensive. It's an application of specific targeted techniques, and each one is designed for a different biological or structural purpose.
Okay, let's break down those specific techniques. What
Yeah.
differentiates specialized care from just, a simple haircut for a tree?
Well, we can start with thinning. While it does involve removing dead or diseased branches to improve health, its structural goal is to improve air circulation within the tree's crown and, critically, to reduce the sail effect.
The sail effect. So like reducing wind resistance.
Precisely. By carefully thinning out the internal branches, you allow high winds, like the famous Santa Ana winds we get here, to pass through the crown rather than pushing against a solid canopy.
Which is what causes them to uproot.
It's the #1 cause of uprooting or large limb failure. This is pure risk mitigation.
Then you have crown reduction, which sounds fairly obvious, but I'm guessing it's more complex than just chopping off the top.
Much more complex, yeah. Crown reduction is used to manage the tree's overall size and weight, especially when it's growing too close to structures or power lines. A certified arborist executes this while maintaining the tree's natural form and health. They'll often remove limbs back to a specific growth point to avoid causing stress or creating, major entry points for decay.
And finally, the one that sounds the most aesthetic, artistic lacing.
That one involves specific pruning techniques intended to shape the tree for a more pleasing appearance, but it's done in a way that ensures structural stability is maintained while you're achieving that perfect curb appeal. All three techniques show that a good arborist is always balancing health, safety, and aesthetics.
Okay, so what about when the diagnosis is fatal? Tree removal. That service is coupled with a vital step, stump grinding.
Stump grinding is essential, and the sources highlight a key technical detail here. It removes the stump below ground level.
Not just flush with the ground.
Exactly. Simply cutting the tree at the soil line leaves a significant piece of wood that will inevitably decay. Grinding removes that decay source, and that serves two primary functions.
Okay, what are they?
First, it prevents the rotting wood from attracting termites, fungi, and other pests. And second, it allows you, the property owner, to immediately reclaim that yard space for new planting or just usable lawn.
That makes a huge difference if you want to replant right away. If the stump is ground that deeply, does that interfere with the new root system of a replacement tree?
That's an excellent nuanced question, and typically no, because the grinding process leaves behind wood chips and loose soil. An arborist will often recommend removing some of the immediate grindings and replacing them with fresh soil to optimize the environment for the new planting.
I see.
But the space itself is ready to use almost immediately.
We also see specializations in the source material that are tailored to the Southern California environment specifically. Tell us about palm tree trimming and ivy removal.
Right. Palm tree trimming requires specialization because it's totally distinct from broadleaf tree care. Palms need careful removal of dead fronds. Not only are dead fronds unsightly, they become dangerously heavy fire hazards in our dry climates.
Good point.
Proper trimming promotes new, healthy growth and maintains the structural integrity of the crown.
And ivy removal is crucial, not just aesthetic.
Absolutely. The sources describe ivy as this invasive growth that can wrap around trees, fences, and walls, causing long-term structural and aesthetic damage. It hides decay, it traps moisture against the structure,
Which can rot wood.
it can compromise masonry and wood structures if left unchecked. Removing it is really a preservation service.
And of course, the worst-case scenario.
Hmm.
Emergency services.
They emphasize the necessity of having a quick response team. When severe weather hits and you have fallen limbs or uprooted trees blocking your driveway or posing an immediate danger, you need a service that can respond fast, often outside standard business hours, just to restore safety.
Okay, let's pivot to the provider itself. So you've gone through this diagnostic checklist. You know you need specialized help, not just a general landscaper. What does the source material suggest you prioritize when choosing a company? This is where the professional credentials become non-negotiable.
The single most important factor stressed in these sources is employing certified arborists.
Yep.
Certification signifies that the team has undergone rigorous training and testing on tree biology, health, and risk assessment.
So why can't a general gardener handle this? What does that certification actually provide that makes such a difference?
It provides scientific expertise. A general gardener manages plants and grass. A certified arborist is a tree surgeon and an engineer.
Free surgery.
Yeah, they can look at a pattern of decay or a structural flaw and properly diagnose the underlying disease or instability. And then they recommend treatments that promote long-term health, rather than just pruning what looks messy. That deep knowledge means they don't accidentally prune a tree at a point that causes permanent damage or invites infection.
And that expertise has to be backed up by core operational standards.
It must be. The sources highlight the absolute necessity of hiring a licensed and insured team. This is your protection.
Right.
Licensing confirms they operate legally and adhere to industry standards, and the insurance ensures that if, heaven forbid, an accident happens, if a limb falls the wrong way or damage occurs during the grinding process, you, the property owner, are completely protected from liability. This is the foundation of trustworthy service.
And the sources provide some compelling client feedback, noting that prioritizing quality over just the lowest cost is crucial, which I think speaks directly to the need for transparency.
Transparency is paramount because of the inherent complexity of tree work. A reputable company like the one profiled emphasizes providing affordable and transparent pricing.
No hidden fees.
Exactly. They offer clear, competitive quotes for the entire job with zero hidden fees. The testimonials consistently praise professionalism, timeliness, and the quality of the work. They note that paying for true expertise saves money in the long run by avoiding rework and future damage.
The logistics of the service also speak volumes about their customer focus.
They make it incredibly easy to engage. They offer free estimates for all services with no obligation. And their availability is remarkable.
How so?
They operate 7 days a week, generally from 7:00 a.m. to 8:00 p.m., plus round-the-clock emergency service availability, recognizing that tree crises don't exactly stick to business hours.
And the final piece of assurance, the promise to leave the property cleaner than when they arrive.
That speaks to the professional standard, right? The 100% satisfaction guarantee ensures every project ends with a full cleanup and inspection. They handle all the debris, all the chips, all the mess, ensuring that the only sign they were there is a healthier, safer landscape.
So what does this all mean then? We started out looking at what seems like routine yard maintenance, but the sources quickly escalated the conversation from aesthetic trimming to uh, structural preventative care. The difference between aesthetic pruning and informed structural maintenance is the difference between increasing curb appeal and potentially avoiding thousands of dollars in property damage, severe liability, and landscape-wide disease.
That's it. It's fundamentally about informed risk mitigation.
So that's the ultimate takeaway.
That is the ultimate takeaway. Timely, professional intervention conducted by certified experts not only extends the lifespan and the inherent value of your landscape, but it acts as essential preventative care, protecting the substantial financial investment you have in your property.
And since the sources emphasize that neglecting trees can disrupt the natural balance of the landscape and attract pests, let's leave you with this final thought. If we view our landscape as an interconnected ecological system, how does responsible, timely intervention like targeted thinning to improve airflow or removing invasive ivy before it spreads, how does that impact the long-term health and stability of our local living environment? How does it ensure that your property remains part of a thriving ecosystem rather than, a hazard zone?
A great question.
That's something to mull over the next time you look up at your trees.